Greetings, everyone.
Hi, hi,
Hi.
Court. Hi,
Hey.
guys. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
And I'm so excited, Cynthia, to have you here with us. To all those listening or watching today, here with us is Cynthia Conigliaro, who is a corporate wellness consultant, trainer, speaker, and coach. And I'm so excited to talk about all things wellness related. And what I'm especially excited to learn more about is Cynthia's recent experience having taken the MBSR, or the Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction Program. So, welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
So nice to
Thanks for
have
being here.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So if you care to, I know just from our conversations long before this episode, I know how invested you are not only in your personal wellness routine, but in sharing well-being practices within professional sectors. So I'm just curious to learn more about your journey into the wellness sector.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So my background is a combination of psychology and social work. I went to grad school to get my master's in social work. And so I work with clients all over the country. So it's mostly virtual. I run a lot of support groups. And then I do a lot of work with organizations. So in my work with organizational wellness and learning systems, OWLS, I'm designing and conducting a number of trainings, mostly mental health focused, so that they'll be focused on resilience, burnout, um, team building, leadership, and basically anything that employees struggle with in their organization. So I'm really tapping into a lot of aspects of emotional wellness. And then with my one-on-one clients, I'm focusing on every aspect of wellness. What I mean by that is both the physical and the emotional. So it's a huge focus on resilience. I do a lot of resilience trainings. I'm a resilience coach and a lot of mindfulness work as well. I'm doing a lot of work with infertility support groups, helping them focus on resilience and mindfulness techniques, and all different groups. So it's been exciting. I love what I do.
It's exciting. I love the total wellness thing that I hear popping up everywhere, like we talked about
Yeah,
earlier.
Yeah, and
definitely.
I hear so much about the mental component, but there's such a connection between the mind and the body. So I love that you combine them both. I think that you can't be in a good mental space if you're not physically in a good place, and vice
And vice
versa.
versa.
Yeah,
No
so
question.
I love that it's all encompassing. And I want to, there's so many different directions we can go given all the different ways you're helping people. And I want to begin first with the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, because I know, and I was so excited to hear when you told me that you were going to be enrolling in the program, but I wanted to hear a bit about your experience and the ways in which you're incorporating it into your resiliency programs and other wellness programs that you bring into workplaces.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I love the training. I thought it was fantastic. Um, this is an 8-week virtual training. It happens to be about 20 minutes from my house, which is kind of interesting considering the people in my training were from all over the world. But it was started at UMass Medical School, which is just down the street from where I live. And I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I do have a pretty extensive background and experience in mindfulness. I would say most of the students in my class did not, which was fine. Um, I think that it was really well structured and that each week, we had homework assignments and a lot of mindfulness practices that we were encouraged to participate in. And then during the Zoom calls, we would share our experience and just learn more tools and resources for practicing mindfulness. So I thought it was fantastic. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. There's been thousands of people that's gone through this training, and they still have groups for people who are interested, free groups twice a week you can attend.
Any specific mindfulness in terms of the formal practices that you learned? Any specific practice that really resonated with you?
So, oh my gosh, there were so many. We talked about, we even had a section on mindful eating, which I've taken courses on mindful eating, for instance. And I think many people don't associate mindfulness with eating, but so many of us are so busy, right? And we sometimes will grab food and we're barely tasting it. We're just trying to get food in our bodies for the next
Mhm.
meeting.
Mhm.
So we had a whole class dedicated to mindful eating, and I've taken a certification in that because many of my clients do struggle with many issues related to eating as well. So that was super interesting. We had a full day mindfulness retreat. So that lasted from 8 until 5, where we all, every student from around the world who's ever taken the training was invited. So there's about 200 of us, and it was really exciting. Um, all the teachers came together that day, and we did everything from practicing mindful walking to mindful movement, to guided imagery, body scans, yoga, deep breathing exercises, so many different things. It was really exciting.
Awesome. Um, well, I know that between the three of us, we all have sort of our different angles in which we bring wellness into the workplace. So I really wanted to transition into some of the ways that you help, speaking of resiliency, how you help corporations and their employees to be more resilient, to optimize performance, and to really promote deeper wellness, both in
Okay.
mind and body.
Yes, definitely. Well, I have a series of workshops that I do, and so I present those topics to companies all over the country, and they could be anything from mindfulness to stress management, resilience, burnout, self-care, work-life balance. So I have a whole series of presentations that I present to companies. I also, with Owls, conduct a number of trainings in the area of resilience, like I mentioned, burnout, stress management, self-care. And those trainings are really customized to the organization. So they could be over several hours, several weeks. It's really based on what's going on in the organization. So it's been very interesting and very exciting. And the owner of the company I work for, Dr. Joel Bennett, who I think I've spoken with you about,
Yeah.
he is very focused in the area of presence, and he actually has published quite a few books on this very topic. So I've been with him for almost 5 years, and that topic is one that comes into our trainings quite often. So he's very interested in everything that you're talking about in your podcast.
Terrific. And ALS stands for, just for our audience, Organizational Wellness and Learning Systems, right?
Yes, thanks. Yep.
Okay. And sort of to build on that, I know, Annie, I'm really excited about the ways in which you're bringing mindfulness into the world. Congratulations on your new role
Thank
at
you.
the Wellness Core Clinic Mainline. Did I have that
Yes,
name right?
that core
Yeah.
clinic mainline. Yep. It's like a total wellness, to Cynthia's points. So it's kind of echoing, you know, well, it was like basically I was on the chiropractor table and I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, this place is amazing. It's big, it has high ceilings. You guys really do everything. I'm thinking in my head, everything is physical, right? What about the emotional and mental side? Yes, they just started with Reiki, and yes, there's like massage and facial, right, which can help the mind and body. But there's no coach, there was no coaching. And so I basically just pitched them from the table and I said, why do you not have life coaching guidance? Any kind of like mental help for these women and men that are coming in. And they said, we don't know. So they put me in touch with the owner. I sat down with her with a business plan and she was like, let's do it. So this has, just kind of unfolded in front of me, but you walk in, it's the total package. The only piece missing was the coaching. Well, and remember, this is not going to be like your corporate atmosphere, right? This is your every day. They might be professional, they might be a stay-at-home mom or dad, right? Where they come in for a chiropractor stretch or a physical therapy session or a massage. And now there's the mental side of things. So it's super exciting because my business has been online for 5 years and now I'm keeping that, but I'm also shifting gears to in person. So super excited about that.
Congratulations. I'm
Thank you.
excited about it as well.
Thank you.
So I see like we're all, between the three of us, like we very much value and understand the importance in not just the physical, but also the mental. Cynthia, in your role with OWLS, what do you think is the biggest roadblock or hindrance to people being able to reach their full potential? Like, what keeps them from being able to feel resilient or to enhance what it is they want to grow? Like, can you share with us
Yeah.
what maybe you've seen with, from the people that you've worked with?
Sure. I mean, I think to kind of answer your question, when you talk about mindfulness and meditation, and I find this with my clients too, so many times people will say they don't have the time or they're just not good at it, right?
Yeah.
But, one thing that I am always sharing with either when I'm presenting about the topics or when I'm leading groups, mindfulness groups, or when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, is I really try to emphasize that you don't have to be good at it, right? There's no, right way to do it. And, taking baby steps is always, my suggestion, especially with someone who really has very little experience with mindfulness and meditation, meaning, even just a couple minutes a day, just starting very, very small. Because I think sometimes people get very discouraged and overwhelmed. And unfortunately, it's those people who are overwhelmed and who are very, very busy that really would benefit the most, but they don't want to take the time or they think that they're not able to, sit still and quiet their mind. I've been on silent retreats. I'm lucky that I don't live too far from the Insight Meditation Society out in Barre, Massachusetts, where Dan Harris goes all the time. And I know, Courtney, you're a big fan of Dan Harris, as am I.
And I'm curious, speaking of Dan Harris, and then we have to weave sports in. We have Annie here, so we have to weave in Philly
Look at my
sports.
green nails.
So
If
Dan,
you hear this, this is 6 weeks away. So the Eagles will have won the Super Bowl by the time you guys hear and watch this.
Oh,
Just mark my words. Mark my words.
okay.
Yeah. P.S. I went to school in Boston, Cynthia. So I had to be
Oh,
with
where'd you
Bruins
go?
fans and Boston University,
Oh, I
Bruins
love
fans and
BU.
Patriots fans. And it was many years of them being really good and us really being bad. So now
Okay,
I'm
that's
this
great.
is my ultimate redemption.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll have fingers crossed then. Don't tell anyone
Thank
around.
you.
But
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited.
that's
This is
Annie,
like my
awesome.
thing. It's like my kids and my husband and this. People are
Yeah,
like, sometimes I'm like, I need a new hobby, but this is like my favorite thing on
that's
earth to do.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm so into it.
Oh,
here's
gee. Okay.
here's my image of Annie. Like, babies come out from the womb and they give a yell. I'm convinced Annie came out saying EAGLES. I mean, she is like the most diehard fan I know. But I'm excited because, speaking of Dan Harris, Cynthia, from what I recently read, like, he had zero interest in sports, but his son, he and his wife have a young son who
Yeah.
has become a huge fan of, I believe it's the Commanders. I believe it's the team.
It's
So
really bad because that's who we're playing this
right,
weekend. Yeah.
right. I'm pretty sure when I read it, like, I just found out who I mean, didn't just find out, like, when we won the
Yeah.
game, and I was
Yeah.
talking to my husband and my three sons who are also huge Eagles fans. I was like, oh my gosh, we're playing the Commanders and it's here in Philly. I was like, there's a possibility that maybe I'll go to get a cheesesteak at Pat Steaks, or I'll go to one of the local joints and I'll run into Dan Harris. But just speaking about that connection, he may be in my neck of the woods in the next week or so.
Oh,
But
that's great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's really why I got into meditation. I can thank him. I read his book and he convinced me. And I
yeah,
started
What book was that?
10%
10%
happier.
happier.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just I wanted to get back. I lost my train of thought, but I know what I wanted to get back to something that you said, because I know Annie and I have talked about some of the hurdles that our clients come into, being busy professionals, and that's
Yeah.
the time element. They don't have time or they're not good at it. And I was recently rereading Everywhere You Go, There You Are by John Kabat-Zinn.
Hmm.
And I love what he says about that. Like, I can't, when people try to meditate and they say, I don't have the time or I can't do this,
Mhm.
many a times we go into meditation because, or maybe we're working with a coach and it's not meditation related, but we are so attached to having a certain outcome, or we set rigid deadlines like I want to have 2 sessions with this coach, or I want to have 2 sits of meditation, and I want to walk away feeling relaxed and more calm. And that's, it's not that we don't have the time, and it's not that we can't do it, but to be able to notice that we're striving to feel or be a certain way by a certain point. And when we can let go of that and really just allow ourselves to be in the moment, to whether we're listening to the words of a coach or we're feeling the breath, when we can just be in it as opposed to fighting what's here or trying to get to another place, then we start to see like we have everything that we need. Like this is it. And it's not that we're not cut out for this or that we don't have the time. It takes a certain intentionality and a certain attitude. So in the work I think that each of us do to point that out to our clients is what opens them up to greater possibility, greater growth. So I just wanted to give that a voice because I got
Too,
caught up with Dan Harris.
I think our society today, everything is so instant, like instantaneous. You want something, Amazon can have it to you that night, right? Like your phones, you're scrolling, it's instant. I want to know the answer, it's 2 seconds on your phone. I want to take a pill and feel better 2 minutes later. And I think that's the opposite of mindfulness, right? It's like just be for a second. And if and everybody wants it to, I want to understand it in 2 sessions. I want to be this yogi or this Buddha, or in 2 seconds. Like it's like things you don't get in perfect shape going running twice.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like you have
Yeah.
to go through that pain of
Right.
trying to get strong first, and then you can run further and longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why like the workshops I do are so powerful because I think people need to experience it. Like I find when I work with the women who are going through infertility, even doing just a simple body scan for 3 minutes or a simple meditation, for a couple of minutes. And, I'll, ask everyone to close their eyes, turn off their screens because I'm doing everything over video. And they always respond when we're finished in honestly amazement, like, wow, I feel so much better. That was so amazing. I didn't realize how much tension I'm holding in my shoulders. Or
Yeah.
I think it can be really powerful for people when they experience it themselves and then they hopefully make it more of a practice and incorporate that into their daily life. As well as it doesn't have to be a formal sitting meditation. It can be something as simple as practicing mindfulness on a walk. You don't have to be listening to music or talking to your friend or even walking with a neighbor or trying to multitask, trying to just turn it all off and simply observing what's around you. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? It can be really powerful. I know that's something we did in the all-day retreat I mentioned to you. In between our Zoom calls, we were asked to go outside for 15 minutes and not use our phone, which is tricky for me because I often have my phone and it's hard to just put that away. But we were asked to put our phone away and simply go outside and walk. And I walked in the area that I walk in probably every day. I love to walk. And I have to say, it was fascinating because I noticed things I never noticed, which I
Yeah.
thought was so interesting because it was like, wow, I walk by this every day, but I've never noticed that. So it can be really powerful when you practice mindfulness and really being present.
I
I
like that because people have that image, right? You have to be, and that's just not
Yes,
all it is.
exactly. And
And then
that
the
can
people,
often scare people
yes,
and
the
scare
people
people
think,
away.
oh, I could never do that.
Exactly.
And you just kind of explain that you can do it in other ways. It doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly.
It's really a good point.
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
I
It really
love,
is that way.
oh, sorry, Cynthia, but I love what you're describing. It really goes to one of the qualities that we can deepen with mindfulness, and that's beginner's mind. Like we
Yes.
walk the same places and we miss half of the beauty that surrounds us. We miss half of the beauty of the people right in front of us. But when we can bring a set of fresh eyes, that beginner's mind, it really makes the moments of our lives and the people who are in it, it can make it feel that much more rich and enjoyable. But I love what you're sharing too about like the misconception people think in order to practice mindfulness, you have to sit in lotus pose for hours on end,
Yeah.
right? But like, I gave a presentation last week to, it was actually a LinkedIn Live event. And at the end, I like to offer, in addition to offering a formal practice, these what we call on the spot practices, where it can take 30 seconds. You can easily weave mindfulness into your daily busy life. And speaking of the cell phone, like when you tell people they can't have their cell phone for 15 minutes, it's like their jaws drop. But I invited people a quick way from the very minute you get up to weave mindfulness into your life is to notice how quickly we go to grab our phone. Some of us
Yeah.
use our phones as our alarm clocks, so we have to like grab it the minute it goes off. But to mindfulness in regards to the phone, but in the bigger picture, helps us to understand our relationships to our devices, to the stressors in our lives. And the more and more we could see like how we fall into this autopilot of going for our phones, or like being on autopilot, just stuffing our face, like not even knowing what we're eating, the more we can get some insight into that, that opens us up to making more nourishing choices for ourselves. So, so much that
You
what
taught
you're,
me too, Courtney, like these kids, Courtney and I both have like teenagers. You taught me too, this is amazing, where sometimes I'm like, put your phone down in the car and look at the darn trees. Like just,
Mhm.
like pay it because it's like this all the time. And
yeah,
Yeah.
then you taught me like when they say I'm bored, which is, I've said that when I was younger too. Everybody says that, but it's like, how does it feel to be bored? What does that say? You
They're not
taught me
used
that,
to
Court,
that.
like, what's that feel for you? What's
Hmm.
coming up for you? And it's like, my kids don't want to hear that, but it definitely makes them think.
yeah.
Definitely.
The boredom, I think, is where we instantly go to fill up our time, to feel, that dopamine effect, like to feel
Instant.
Mhm.
some
Yeah.
type of like
Definitely.
uplift, or yeah, or when things aren't feeling good, like what can we do to change them right away?
Right.
So
If you really want to practice mindfulness and you don't know how, do a plank for a minute. You
That's
will be
great.
real present for that. If you can't have like a
Yes,
phone or a TV on, all of a sudden it's
for
the
sure.
slowest minute of your entire life.
For
I'm like,
sure.
minutes fly by all day long. Why is this one
Yes.
so long?
you can do
Right?
a body scan and awareness of breath as you're trying to survive the
Oh,
plank for a minute.
planks are hard. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. Very
it's
challenging.
actually a good time to practice it, right? And just
Yeah,
realize what's going
Hmm.
on, and that, you're shaking after 2 minutes and it's really hard. And but your body is so strong and holding you up, right?
yeah,
It's pretty,
yeah.
pretty amazing.
Definitely.
If we can, Cynthia, you raised something that hit home for me, and that is that you weave mindfulness into the clients that you deal with who are grappling with fertility issues.
Mhm.
And as someone who hit some hurdles in between my first and second, like I became disconnected from the body. You become so pigeonholed, focus on the outcome that you want to have with bringing another child into the world, that you often, and there are a lot of emotions and they're difficult. So you can suppress feelings and thoughts,
Mhm.
but also you sometimes feel like you're a number, like just going to appointments and whatnot, that it becomes, you can become so disconnected from yourself. So what are some of the modalities, or what are some of the practices that you teach women who are dealing with infertility issues?
I have to go, ladies. I'm sorry. I have an
Yeah,
appointment, but keep going. I don't want to stop you. Cynthia, I would love to hear that answer, but I'm going to have to listen to it to hear it. It was
Thanks,
nice to
good
Annie.
luck
meet
with
you.
your
Sorry
next
to interrupt.
client.
Bye.
Thank
See ya.
you. Yeah. So, having gone through infertility myself, you're always focused on the next thing, right? It's
Yeah,
really hard to be present because you're so determined to keep going, keep moving forward. What's going to happen? What's the next thing I have to do to reach the goal, which is to have a baby, right?
yeah,
So, it can be a very difficult time for so many reasons in terms of stress, depression, etc. So, I do a lot of work with the group in just trying to really focus their mindset to be, first of all, more positive, trying to, kind of get out of the often depressed state that many of them are in. one thing that I'm doing now, which is very, very interesting, is I'm taking a mindful art certification class. And that's been very interesting because there's a lot of research out there that getting into a flow state really brings a lot of stress management and decreases a lot of symptoms of anxiety and depression. So, what I mean by flow state, it's people who are in the zone. I know I get in the flow state in different situations, such as running, if I'm playing guitar, if I'm doing something that requires not a lot of thought, in a sense that I am in the flow state. I am simply doing what I'm doing, and the thoughts are kind of arising. You talked about the teenagers and how they're always in their phone, and they're such a difficult audience, in my opinion, to teach mindfulness to. I've tried, and it's worked out at times. Other times, I felt like they really weren't listening. Having said that, I want to bring up my son, who is almost 17. So I mentioned that he's an avid soccer player. He's playing soccer probably 5 times a week all year. He doesn't stop for 3 hours a day. It's very, very rigorous. And he's been doing that for a long time. And I really do believe that having that kind of training has helped him with his ability to focus and to practice mindfulness, in that he has to practice mindfulness when he's in the soccer field. Because
Yeah,
if he doesn't, he's going to miss the shots and
right,
he's not going to perform the way he needs to.
right.
And I noticed that he has an incredible attention span, and he can focus for, in my opinion, much longer than the average person and not get distracted, which is an incredible skill that he's kind of developed just through his kind of very rigorous athletic pursuits he's been doing these past couple of years, especially. So
Yeah.
I think it's really going to benefit him in the long run because he can read and he can focus in ways that I just find really remarkable.
Yeah, we talk about it as the muscle of the mind, that we can strengthen
Exactly.
the muscle of the mind, and that happens with practice. And so,
Yes.
whether it's being cultivated through playing soccer, like again, coming back over and over to this moment. If he's thinking about a test he has the next day, or he's giving himself a hard time for something he feels he should have done differently, the ball's gonna go right by him. So the act of
Yes.
just coming back over and over
Exactly.
we can carry that into whether it's him doing his homework or reading a book. It strengthens the muscle
Exactly.
of the mind. I was just I was just reading another article that talked about this flow state, and we see it a lot in, I know when I watch basketball games, I see certain players and I'm like, he's just like in his flow, like he's just
Yes.
effortless. It's like an effortless effort. Like
Yes.
you're working hard to play strategically and you're getting high points, but it's almost as if you're just effortlessly going across the field or going across the court. I've had it come up where I've been cooking and there's just music playing and I'm
Yes.
feeling the rhythm and
Definitely.
yeah, and I'm just sort of in it. Like I'm not thinking about my to-do list. I'm not going back to something from earlier or judging the present. Like I'm really just taking in the aromas. I'm taking in like what it feels like to be cutting cucumbers. And
Yes.
so yeah, we can find that flow state, and it's 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 simple. Like it allows you to see that when we are in the here and now, it's just
Hmm.
a very simple, it's a simple, I don't know if I want to say a mechanism, but it's just a simple, innate way that exists within each of us, but it takes a certain intentionality, like your son showing up for practice over and over, 6 times a week for years, like intentionally showing up and strengthening that muscle of the mind is what allows us to find that flow state or be in that flow state.
Definitely. And it's so powerful. And you see it with musicians, you
Yeah,
see it with artists, and it's just really just exciting when you see it.
yeah, being in the zone. So
Yes.
I want to go to the other side of the fence, so to speak. I know we were talking about the ways in which mindfulness can help women who are dealing with fertility issues. How about after the children are born and we are experiencing like perimenopause or menopause?
Yeah. Yep.
What are some ways in which mindfulness can support women when they reach that point in their lives?
Yeah. So I do a lot of presentations on this very topic, and I also coach women dealing with menopause issues. And I always incorporate mindfulness and meditation into whatever it is I'm talking about. There's been a lot of studies that have proven that meditation is a very powerful technique, and mindfulness around obviously stress reduction. And many women who struggle with the symptoms of menopause are very, anxious. They're dealing with physical symptoms and psychological symptoms such as depression, anxiety. So really trying to help them to decrease those symptoms through strategies such as, breathing techniques or body scans, mindfulness, meditation. Any kind of stress reduction has proven to be very helpful for women that are going through a really challenging time. A lot of companies are really addressing the topic of menopause, which is exciting, which is why I'm being asked to present about this topic more and more. Whereas, 5, 10 years ago, the topic just wasn't discussed. Now
Yeah.
it's more open.
Yeah, there's more of a conversation. I'm seeing it pop up on more and more social media platforms, and you're in the supermarket in the aisle to check out. You see it splashed on the cover of a magazine and various talk shows. So I do think that having deeper conversation and sort of not keeping it hush hush, like exploring something that it's not so black and white. I think
Yeah,
that's where you can really support women who are going through a really challenging time. I know that
definitely.
the John Kabat-Zinn, speaking of UMass, where the MBSR program developed,
Yeah.
he part of the reason he developed the program is because there were so many patients who were falling through the cracks of the medical system, so to speak. Like medicine and medical treatment could only help them so much. And so what is so remarkable about the MBSR program in particular and mindfulness practices is that it can really empower us and it can help
Mhm.
us to find ways to support ourselves and be with what can feel and what is really challenging, whether it's emotionally, physically. So I love that you work on helping people to feel more resilient. I think
Mhm.
that in order to enhance resiliency, the awareness piece, like to notice how we are feeling in the body, to notice when, whether it's a challenge, a fertility challenge, or going through menopause, to to notice our emotions, to notice some of the things we tell ourselves, and then with that awareness, how can we be kinder? How can we be compassionate towards what it is we're experiencing? Because it's very much like present in, it's what's here. So how can we learn to embrace it when maybe most
Mhm.
likely it's not something that you're wanting to like necessarily hug, but
Right.
that is how we can transform like what it is that we're experiencing. That's how we can offer ourselves some more ease.
Yeah, definitely, Courtney.
Yeah.
You talk about, noticing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Noticing your thoughts is such a powerful exercise. I really encourage my clients to focus on what are their thoughts, pay attention to those thoughts, which can many times be negative.
Hmm.
And I help them to really try to change those negative thoughts to positive or more neutral ones.
Yeah.
So that can be really exciting when I see a change. And like you mentioned earlier, the mind is a muscle, right? And so we have control of our mind in a sense that we can really work on changing that negative mindset. I do a lot of mindset coaching and
Yeah.
trying to help people to look at how they're interpreting a situation and how they can look at that in a different light. That's one of my favorite kind of practices with people, and be it infertility support groups, be it a depressed woman who's going through menopause, be it, a unhappy employee who doesn't feel rewarded at his, position, trying to look at what is challenging to the person and how is that person kind of interpreting what is going on in his or her life, and trying to help them to restructure it in a more positive way.
Yeah, I think that's so skillful, and just getting back to the mind, we're coming back to the mind, but to be able to understand how the mind works, that's how we can work with the mind. But we have to be able to see it, to see maybe the thought patterns, to see some of our habitual tendencies, and then to really understand our pain points and the way the mind works. That becomes the gateway to
Yes, definitely.
freeing ourselves from what otherwise traps us and
Yes.
holds us back. So, and in turn,
Yeah.
that I think allows us to become more resilient
Oh,
in
no question. There's a link.
yeah,
Even just the response to reactions, right?
yeah.
People tell me, ever since I started meditating, I'm less reactive. I feel that I'm able to handle things a little bit better. What used to really upset me, being stuck in traffic, whatever it is, maybe a rude comment by a coworker, is less of an impact on me. So it's really exciting when I listen to this from my clients.
The awareness spans it broadens, so you're not just so fired up in the moment, but you can see the bigger picture. And so
Yes,
you can choose how to skillfully respond as to
exactly.
reacting, and then that probably
Exactly. It's so
yeah.
powerful. It really is.
Yeah.
It's changed my life, no question. Meditation and mindfulness has changed my life.
Circling back, and then I want to share with our listeners and viewers how they can connect with you, but circling back to Dan Harris, we'll have to tag him in this one, but getting
Thank you,
back,
Dan Harris. Thank you.
he did a adorable animated video. It's from Happify, and it was done in collaboration with another well-known mindfulness teacher, Sharon Salzberg, who
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
you know of. But it's
Yep.
Dan narrating this character, and again, it's just a few minutes. It's a really great way of letting people who are new to mindfulness, or really experienced practitioners, but understand what mindfulness is in a nutshell, and how we can step out of reactivity, choose how to respond, and really enjoy our lives more fully. But he says the title of the video is "Why Mindfulness is a Superpower." And I really do
Mm.
believe it's empowering, but it's like a superpower. Only it's here within each of us. It's just a matter of, like your son, like us, like strengthening that muscle and being able
Mhm.
to really show up for the moments of our lives. So thank you so much, Cynthia. I want, if people are curious about your work with owls, or they want to learn more about you, how's the best way for them to connect with you?
Sure. I mean, they can email me, whatever's, so I can put my email in the chat, or
I can share, you don't even have to worry about that. I can share, if I have your email, so I can share it with viewers and listeners. And then, do you have a website, or is
I
there,
do.
yeah,
It's cynthiawellness.com.
easy enough.
You can find me there. And you can use the info at cynthiahealthcoach.com as well.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for having me today, Courtney. I absolutely love your podcast, so I'm really honored to be a guest.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to have connected with you. It's been a long time coming. I know that between the three of us, we have really busy schedules. We juggle children and jobs, multiple jobs. And
Yes,
so to actually be here now has really been a gift. So thank you so much for your
thank you.
presence, for so much of the really helpful resources you've offered and shared with us. And I look forward to continuing our discussion off the podcast episode. But thank you so much,
Great.
and
I
be
do
well.
as well. Thank you.
Thank you.